Abbasid infantry.
Come on, China, show them who's up. Come on, China.
Sent his
Go push back those Muslim colonizers. I'm rooting for you. Alright, how did China lose Central Asia? Abbasid Caliphate versus China.
As the summer sun rose above the flat expanses of northern Transoxiana, figures appeared on the road, silhouetted against the morning sky. The ground trembled as the armies of the Abbasid Caliphate and the Tang Empire of China marched along the banks of the Talas River.
This is going to be interesting. I don't know if this is going to be in the early Muslim expansion series that I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure the early Muslim expansion series was, I think it was Central Asia. Like, there was a Central Asia part, right? I don't know. Was this battle included in it? Probably was included in the early Muslim expansion. Maybe I should have waited until I react to this, because there are some battles of the Abbasid Caliphate that people have told me reacted to that weren't a part of the early Muslim expansion series. But I don't know. I don't know if this is one of them. Oh well, if it is, let me know.
What started as a frontier dispute escalated into a regional conflict that will now be decided on the battlefield nearby. War was to come, and now it was here. Following the death of Prophet Muhammad, the swiftness of the Arab conquest was nothing short of astonishing. In less than 2 decades, the Eastern Roman Empire was deprived of its lands in the Middle East, and the Sasanian Empire was conquered entirely. But further afield, Central Asia was much harder to subdue, then settled by sedentary Iranian peoples, divided into a number of small kingdoms, principalities and city-states, as well as Turkic tribes roaming the steppes and the expanses between urban centers.
You know, I always wondered about Central Asia during this period of time and what was going on. You also have a bit more insight to this region now.
Instead of fighting a single enemy, the Arab armies had to reduce the petty states one by one, facing determined resistance and contending with frequent revolts and setbacks over the next 50 years. By then, caliphal rule had passed on to the Umayyad dynasty, which saw the appointment of Qutayba ibn Muslim as governor of Khorasan, an excellent administrator and military commander who was able to make significant inroads, and through clever policies of recruiting local Iranians into his army, as well as integrating some of the petty rulers into the power structure of the caliphate, he was able to greatly pacify the region of which Transoxiana was of greatest importance. These were some of the wealthiest lands in the world during medieval times, thanks to extensive trade with China, mostly in silk and jade, and with Europe in goods such as amber, furs, honey, and walrus ivory, making Transoxiana one of the most strategically important areas on the planet. But with these territorial acquisitions, the Caliphate entered the sphere of interest of the Tang Empire of China.
Where, bro? China and its many empires, bro. Oh my gosh.
For several centuries, China made its presence felt in Central Asia, and during the reign of Tang Emperor Xianzong, its westward ambitions grew in scale. Xianzong was a diligent and astute ruler who, with the help of his famous 3 chancellors, is credited for bringing Tang China to the pinnacle of culture and power. Most notably, his military reforms saw the replacement of the Fubing system with the Judushi military command. Inefficient, massive conscript armies were replaced by a multicultural, well-drilled volunteer corps, enabling the Tang Empire to assemble a 500,000-strong professional army in just a few years. These reforms were what propelled
500. 500. Oh my gosh. 500 in this time period. 500 is 751 AD. That's oh my goodness, dude. 500. Bro, battles around this time period at most were like the highest I've seen was like 100,000, and that was like rare, right? Super rare. The most I really see is around like 20, like on the high end of the spectrum. It was like 20 to 50,000. What? Oh my gosh. 500,000. Guys, I mean, that's like today's level of troops. Some states just have way less than 500,000 men that they can just call out. That's insane. Like, when you think, like, that's, bro, that's like, I don't know, mind-bending. Freaking China and its rapidly high population. I wonder how China managed to get such a high population. I wonder what led them to freaking make so much babies. China and India. Like, what the heck, dude? Why didn't anywhere else in the world freaking make so much babies, bro?
The Chinese westward push. Although Tang armies rarely ventured too far west beyond the Tarim Basin, rare military interventions were launched to pacify disloyal petty kings and princes of Central Asia. But it was mostly through strong economic and diplomatic ties that China established a firm foothold in the region, which persisted even after the Umayyad conquest, with numerous city-states continuing to send embassies to China, receiving pompous, mostly symbolic titles from the emperor. This reliance on soft power and the establishment of trade agreements, as well as nominal protectorates and vassalships, enabled the Tang Empire to maintain strong influence in Central Asia without the need for military conquest. At this time, the biggest threat to China's westward ambitions was the powerful Tibetan Empire, which successfully challenged the Tang for control over the Tarim Basin, a mostly desert wasteland dotted with strategically important urban towns.
I didn't even clock how freaking thick Tibet was. Holy crap, Tibet. Jeez.
And cities along the Silk Road. The military importance of these urban oases was equally significant, regarded by the Chinese as the gateway to the western regions that the imperial armies could pass through to reach Central Asia. In addition, Turkic Uyghurs to the north also posed a significant threat to Tang interests in this period. But through careful diplomacy, tributes, and Xianzong reforms, by 728 AD, the Chinese managed to establish full control over this vital region.
I hate this border gore.
It was during this time of
I hate this border gore. This border gore, it hurts me. Like this stretch of border that the freaking Tang Empire had, that hurts.
Consolidation in the vast Tarim Basin, that the unstoppable Umayyad armies pushed east into Central Asia. The power of the caliphate was such that they were able to overthrow a Chinese-backed Sogdian ruler of the Principality of Fergana and install a puppet regime right on the Tang Empire's doorstep. However, Umayyad superiority rarely
gotta love those Muslim colonizers, am I right?
challenged before would meet its match, as the Celestial Empire moved to militarily suppress the Arab expansion. An intervention force of 10,000 troops marched towards the Islamic-controlled Fergana, successfully defeating the Umayyad puppet ruler, before massacring 3 entire Sogdian metropolises as punishment. And
hold on a second. Hold on, I knew that volume was freaking high, but it looks like they don't have the plot armor from God anymore. Oh, if you watch my early Muslim expansion series, you should know what I'm talking about.
Restoring the pro-Chinese regime back onto the throne of Fergana. The caliphate responded by allying themselves with the Tibetan Empire and the Turgesh Khaganate. And just a year later, a combined force struck east, aiming to destroy the 4 garrisons of Anshi, from where the Tang controlled the Tarim Basin.
Holy crap! This invasion, Chinese versus
would have
Arab Muslims, what the heck?
Military ambitions. But the Chinese dealt a massive defeat to the Umayyads at the town of Anshi.
Oh my gosh!
Almost completely destroying their army.
Wow!
In the aftermath of the battle.
Honestly, bro, considering how unstoppable the Muslims were, it is nice to see them being defeated. I can't lie. It's a nice change of fresh air. Although the title of the video is literally "How did China lose Central Asia?" So they're probably gonna come back. Still, let me enjoy my time whilst it lasts, alright?
Turkish tribes, formerly allied to the Umayyads, switched their allegiance and launched attacks from the north, while the Tang army marched against the caliphate from the east, effectively expelling the Arabs from Transoxiana.
Wow.
Never again, the Chinese thought, would the Arabs be able to meddle in the affairs of the Tang dynasty.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. Gotta show them what's up, man.
Limited efforts to re-establish their rule in the lost eastern territories. Their main focus shifted west, away from the region. And with this, a power vacuum was created that allowed the House of Abbas to slowly build prominence in the remote but important region of Khorasan. In the ensuing decades, the Abbasids carefully intrigued against the Umayyads, recruiting followers from discontented and dispossessed locals, eventually raising the banner of revolution. The revolt spread quickly under military leadership of Abu Muslim, a commander in the service.
Bro, how do you have a revolt? No, hold on a second. How do you have a... Bro, let me, before I say anything, let me just... You can skip this part if you want, but let me hear this.
The revolt spread quickly under military leadership of Abu...
Wait, but he didn't say why. I want to hear why it started. Okay.
Vacuum was created that allowed the House of Abbas to slowly build prominence in the remote but important region of Khorasan. In the ensuing decades, the Abbasids carefully intrigued against the Umayyads, recruiting followers from discontented and dispossessed locals, eventually raising the banner of revolution. The revolt spread quickly under military leadership of Abu Muslim, a commander in the service of the Abbasids, culminating with the victory in the Battle of Zab, which effectively ended Umayyad rule and led to the proclamation of the first Abbasid caliph. With most of their power base located in Persia, the new regime shifted their military focus east, recognizing the importance of the phenomenally rich lands of Transoxiana. But the cunning Emperor Xianzong exploited the instability within the caliphate during the 3-year-long Abbasid revolution by launching a 3-pronged attack. This time, however, the Tang armies were ordered to establish a firm military foothold in Central Asia. With the Korean general Cao Xianzi in command, the emperor subjugated Tibet's strategically valuable allies, eroding their presence in the area, and vassalized roughly 72 city-states in the important mountainous regions of the Pamir and Hindu Kush.
Golly, China on top.
With these developments, the Chinese now directly challenged the Abbasids for control over Central Asia.
Show them, China, show them.
What triggered the conflict between the two empires was a local dispute between the petty kingdoms of Fergana and Shash. The king of Fergana, having been under heavy Chinese influence for the past 35 years, asked his overlords for assistance. Cao heeded their cries for help and moved to subjugate the Shashin kingdom. The capital city was besieged, and the Tang general promised its king safe passage. But once the king accepted surrender and left the safety of his city walls, he was treacherously captured and beheaded. His son, however, escaped and managed to get word.
Bro, I swear, I'm never prepared. Bro. Swear. This stuff always surprises me. It just comes out of freaking nowhere, bro. Like, golly.
To the Abbasid governor of Khorasan, asking for military assistance. Sensing an opportunity to gather their forces and diminish Tang influence, the Abbasids mustered their troops and marched out of Merv. On the way, reinforcements from parts of Turkmenistan that were still under the caliphate's control were summoned to join the main army.
Bro, black and yellow looks so sexy.
Samarkand,
off topic, low-key.
Salah,
I mean, just look at these two colors together. They look so sexy, bro.
Former Umayyad governor of Kufa, joined with his contingent and assumed command of the whole army, continuing the march east, determined to restore Islamic power long bereft to the steppes of Central Asia. The two armies lined up on the flat plain next to the river Talas, not far from the city bearing the same name. Accounts of the battle differ greatly, but according to the most consistent estimates by modern scholars, Ziyad commanded up to 40,000 troops. He placed archers in the front, with several rows of spearmen just behind, and a mix of heavy and light cavalry on each flank, as well as a contingent of light cavalry along with his own heavily armored bodyguard contingent in reserve. Meanwhile, Cao took to the field with 30,000 troops. He mirrored the Abbasid formation, with his crossbowmen in the front mixed with regular archers, supported by heavily armored Tang spearmen in the center and nomadic mercenary horsemen on each flank, while the Fergana contingent and his own bodyguards were further back. As the vultures circled above, the two commanders cautiously contemplated their moves. What happened next is a matter of debate, but according to one account, Cao ordered his projectile division forward to probe for weaknesses in the Abbasid line. Ziyad responded, and a brief exchange of projectiles followed. Thanks to superior missile technology, Tang crossbowmen soon prevailed, and the Abbasid archers were forced back. Cao promptly
China
ordered
just superior, bro. China just superior. I'm telling you.
Curious about
The Tang commander relied, not for the first time, on the Empire's well-drilled professional troops. The trees rattled as the disciplined Chinese heavy infantry rumbled forward in unison, packed in a tight formation. Close behind, mounted mercenaries followed in support of the infantry. Ziyad moved his numerically superior infantry forward, hoping to slow down the enemy's advance and give his own cavalry more room to maneuver. As the gap closed, the troops in either line gripped their weapons and braced for impact. As the opposing armies interlocked, hacking and stabbing at each other, the scent of blood quickly filled the air. Cao signaled his cavalry on the flanks to gallop forward and encircle the Abbasid infantry.
Come on, China. Show them who's up. Come on, China.
Sent his
Go push back those Muslim colonizers. I'm rooting for you.
heavy and light cavalry divisions forward to alleviate the pressure on his infantry and repel the Chinese advance. In the center, the better armored Tang spearmen pushed their counterparts back their packed formation proving effective against the Abbasid footmen.
Nah, but seriously though, how did the Abbasids win this? It really does seem like China's like, unironically speaking, like, how in the world did the Abbasids clutch? I mean, the title legit says how did China lose Central Asia? Like, the Abbasids are just losing and losing and losing.
Cao's mercenaries held strong in the face of an assault from a superior enemy force.
Exactly. Even history march has to say that China is superior.
The governor of Samarkand then sent his reserves forward, aiming to break the stalemate. He ordered his cavalry to aim for the immediate flanks of the Chinese infantry. But Cao, meanwhile, moved his own reserve up the field, negating the efforts of his opponent.
Oh.
Both armies matched each other's strength, and neither would waver.
China, show them who's up, bruh.
Eventually forced the two commanders to withdraw and rest their troops.
Oh my gosh.
A similar stalemate continued for 2 more days.
That is insane.
With sporadic skirmishes.
Dude, because listen. The amount of reactions I've done where usually it starts off like this, especially with early Muslim expansion series. Usually it starts off like this, but usually the Muslims are usually able to pull something off and usually able to win. But the fact that it actually turned into a stalemate, damn, these Chinese were built different.
And head-on clashes.
Oh bloody hell,
man!
Side
was able to make any significant gains. The other account of the battle, however, claims that the two armies stood in battle formations for 4 days without engaging each other. Perhaps neither side wanted to risk losing their army, aware that it would take a while to get reinforcements in this remote frontier region. Perhaps unbeknownst to Cao, prior to the battle, Ziyad had established contact with a contingent from one of the Turkic Karluk tribes, living in the steppes further east, recruiting them into his ranks.
Oh, bruh, really?
As small groups of riders trickled in for a couple of days, the Muslim commander concealed them in the tall grass across the Talas River.
Bruh. Really? That's how they win? I swear, look, no offense, guys, but don't get me wrong, my early Muslim expansion series, the Muslims did pull off a few things, but I would probably say most of the wins that I saw, or at least in my recent memory that I can think of, they kind of it wasn't really like all the Muslims just fought so valiantly or they had like so much skills, which some of their wins were like that, don't get me wrong. But I would say too much of their wins were just something along the lines of, oh, they had something that the enemy didn't know about and they flanked them. That's how they win. And it's kind of just like, oh, again, like, kind of underwhelming.
Then, on the 5th day of the battle, Ziyad knew he was ready. He ordered his archers and spearmen forward, with cavalry following close behind. The Abbasids advanced at a strong pace, while Cao had his troops slowly move forward into position. Projectile contingents of the two armies began exchanging volleys of arrows, with the Chinese getting the better of their Muslim counterparts. The earth groaned as the mass of Abbasid troops moved forward to meet the enemy head-on. As the infantry in the center clashed, cavalry divisions on the flanks widened their lines, trying to outflank each other. Soon, however, the Abbasid cavalry managed to force the Chinese mounted troops into a brutal static melee, as Cao's nomadic mercenaries couldn't feign retreat without exposing the flanks of the infantry in the center. "Now is the time!" Ziyad cried out, signaling the Karluk mercenaries to attack. Emerging from the reeds, the nomadic riders galloped forward. A handful of Tang officers spotted the enemy on their flank, but with nearly all of their troops engaged, they desperately tried to form a line with men from their own retinues. Moments later, arrows from the east started whizzing overhead.
Oh,
With
brutal,
the Talas River behind them, the
brutal.
Karluk horsemen charged headlong into Kao's flank. The morale of the Tang troops on the left broke, and many tried to flee, fearing an encirclement. Ziyad urged his men on, not wanting to allow the enemy to escape. The governor of Samarkand outwitted the Tang commander, and now the Chinese troops began falling in their thousands as the Abbasid army scythed through their formations. With very few survivors left, Cao ordered a retreat. However, Chinese sources contest this outcome, claiming that it was not Ziyad's superior diplomacy and tactics that won the day. Rather, the Tang account of the battle claims that the Karluk mercenaries were not across the river, but were in fact under Cao's command, laying blame on them for the defeat, after they treacherously switched sides mid-battle and attacked from both flanks.
Interesting.
If this were true, Cao's 10,000 infantry made up only a third of the Tang army, and would stand no chance against 20,000 Karluks.
That is true.
But in actuality, it's most likely that both the Tang army and the Abbasids had contingents of Karluks in their ranks, and that Ziyad managed to launch a surprise attack on the last day of the battle. Whatever the case, of the 30,000 Tang troops that fought at Talas, only a small percentage survived. In the aftermath of the Battle of Talas, the significance of its outcome was not immediately clear. Strategically speaking, the battle was a tactical draw. Cao's plans for a renewed invasion never came to fruition, since the Tang Empire temporarily withdrew most of their troops east to deal with growing unrest in the north and south of the country, as well as Tibetan incursions that put further pressure on the empire.
I became a medical assistant.
Meanwhile, the eastern expansion of the caliphate was halted. While the Abbasids could have theoretically pressed their advantage after such a crushing victory, at that time their supply lines were still not fully established, thus sending a large army east would not have been a prudent move. As a result, the Abbasid-Chinese border stabilized. But the Battle of Talas seems to have gone largely unnoticed by contemporary Chinese and Abbasid chroniclers. Nevertheless, it had important consequences. The Chinese Empire was no longer in any position to interfere in Central Asia, which meant that, in the wake of their victory, the Abbasids were there to stay. And while the Turkic and Persian population of Central Asia certainly did not convert to Islam right after the battle in 751, by driving out the Chinese, there was no longer a counterweight to the Muslim presence, which allowed the Abbasids to gradually spread their influence across the deserts, mountains, and steppes of the region. Within the next 250 years, most of the formerly Buddhist, Hindu, Zoroastrian, and Nestorian Christian tribes of Central Asia had all become Muslim. But perhaps most significant of all, among the prisoners captured after the battle were Chinese artisans, skilled in the art of papermaking. Soon, paper mills appeared in Muslim urban centers across the Middle East, and over the coming centuries the technology spread to Europe as well, fueling advances in science and theology.
So you're telling me that China was indirectly responsible for the incoming Islamic Golden Age? Okay, that's cool.
And, with the promotion of commerce, industry, and the arts, the prestige of the caliphate would spread across the known world under the banner of the Abbasids. Credit goes to our awesome patron.
That was a good battle to react to. That was actually quite different. Freaking Chinese, right? I don't really react to Chinese battles much. But anyways, you made it all the way this far into the video. If you have any suggestions, go comment down below. Like this suggestion that I reacted to, man. Go like the video so that YouTube shows this video to other people just like y'all, so that we get to build up one big community and get more subscribers. if I'm being honest with you. But go check out my other reactions on my channel, man. Definitely have a lot more reactions like this that you would definitely enjoy if you made it all the way to the end here, man. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.